Toy Story is one of the most beloved Pixar films of all time. With a seemingly simple story, it has captured the hearts of children and adults for over 20 years. But what if there was more to the story than meets the eye? Some people have come up with some pretty crazy theories about the film trilogy. In today's video, we will be going over the top Toy Story theories that will blow your mind. Strap yourselves in, everyone, as we are about to go to infinity and beyond. First up, all toys are immortal. One of the most terrifying theories of the bunch gives a more existential dread than actual fear. It's the idea that since the toys aren't organic beings, they are actually immortal. They can't die. They don't decompose the other way living beings do. Unless the toys find themselves in a situation that ends with their destruction, you can count on them to live on through the generations. This is evident in the ages of some of the toys. Woody, Jessie, and Bullseye have been around since the 50s, but since they are well kept, they seem like toys that just came out of their boxes. They get passed on and watch their owners grow up until they get tired of toys and move on. It means that when we see Rex and Wally, he might be totally aware that the world has gone to hell for humans. Next theory is that Sid's family neglected him. There is a theory that Sid, the antagonist of Toy Story, wasn't actually a bad kid at all. He was just a victim of poor circumstance, and his creativity manifested itself in the odd mutant toys he made. A piece of evidence pointing to this is the rocket that's mailed to him at his house. In the 90s, it wasn't easy as going online and buying something. He must have had one of his parents get it for him and not even care that it was something potentially life-threatening. Another sign Sid's house was negligent is his father passed out in front of the television with his empty cola cans strewn throughout the floor. The image is evocative of an alcoholic, which reminds us that Sid's home life wasn't cookie-cutter like Andy's. It might make us wonder whether Sid was just seeking attention by behaving poorly. And then there's the one where Toy Story 3 is about the Illuminati. One of the most ludicrous conspiracy theories talked about on the forums and subreddits is the idea that Toy Story 3 has symbolism and it's attributed to the Illuminati, a conspiracy group that controls the world. Evidence to support this theory is the film's big villain, Lotso Huggin' Bear. He was a devious antagonist who ended up changing Buzz Lightyear's settings from play to demo. This was taken by some as Lotso brainwashing Lightyear to spy for him. It is behavior that is attributed to the Illuminati. The other biggest piece of evidence that people talk about is dialogue spoken by a Ken doll. He says, referring to Lotso, "He's made us into a pyramid and puts himself on top." It's an odd piece of dialogue that people think refers to an image associated with the conspiracy group, a pyramid with an eye at its peak. Next, Woody helped Andy cope with the death of his father. Woody is a very rare and expensive doll from the 50s television show Woody's Roundup. He was stolen in Toy Story 2 for that reason. So how did a 6-year-old boy come into possession of such an old, rare toy? Because Woody wasn't originally Andy's toy. It was his father's, and it's the only thing Andy has from him. In Toy Story 2, we hear Andy's mom tell Al from Al's Toy Barn that Woody wasn't for sale because it was a family possession. His father grew up with polio, which came back and killed him. Also, there's speculation that the house in Toy Story had pictures of a boy that didn't look like Andy. People believe that these were pictures of Andy's father as a boy. It explained Andy's father's absence and why they never talked about him. And Sid became a garbage man to save abandoned toys. Sid knows that toys are alive. He knows this because he witnessed them firsthand in an attack against him orchestrated by none other than Woody. While this sounds devious on Woody's part, he did this to save Buzz Lightyear's life at Sid's house. He also did it because he knew that it was the only way to help mutant toys from being pulled apart and pieced together with parts that weren't their own by Sid. The theory is Sid's awareness of toys being alive made him a garbage man to save toys in Toy Story 3. He does this to make sure all thrown out toys don't get sent off to the incinerator at their local dump. He's also good at piecing toys together because he's creative enough to give them alternative parts, as seen in Toy Story. Up next, Wheezy is the villain of Toy Story 2. Wheezy was a squeaky toy whose squeaker had broken, which gave his voice a famous breathy quality. There was some speculation by fans that Wheezy didn't have the best intentions for Woody, Buzz, and Andy's other toys. In fact, some fans believe that the events of Toy Story 2 happened because of Wheezy. The evidence is that Wheezy was one of Andy's favorite toys for a few months before he was put on the top shelf and forgotten. In Toy Story, we've seen toys get jealous of other toys since that's how Woody's initial dislike of Buzz began. Wheezy must have felt the same way after he was put away for months. His jealousy and depression fueled a plan that put Woody at the yard sale wholesale. Wheezy knew it was his best shot to get rid of Andy's favorite toy and be Andy's once again. Next up is Woody could have been a villain like Lotso's. The main antagonist of Toy Story 3 was a pink bear named Lotso who handled his leadership at Sunnyside Daycare like a dictator. Lotso was accidentally abandoned in his owner's old home. When he finally reached her, he saw that he had a new favorite toy. His heart was shattered, which led him to become the sinister antagonist of the third film. The theory is that if Woody didn't have Andy, he would have become Lotso because they shared similar characteristics. His initial jealousy of Buzz solidified this parallel, but when Woody realized his hate for Buzz was pettiness on his part, he decided to do the right thing. He befriended the toy astronaut instead and shared Andy's affection. Woody made this decision because he didn't lose Andy the way Lotso lost his owner. Another theory is that Toy Story 1 is a metaphor for remarriage. Reddit user Eat Books commented upon Andy's dad being dead theory with a mind-blowing theory of their own. With Woody and Buzz both being toys that can symbolize father figures, what if Buzz's story in the first film is a metaphor for a child coming to terms with his mother remarrying? The metaphor fits how Woody treats Buzz out of jealousy. Woody is old school while Buzz is the new favorite who is changing the status quo he is used to. Next, Jessie belonged to Andy's mom. In the second movie, Jessie is the cowgirl who comes into the picture. She had an owner named Emily who neglected her. Fans on Reddit, like user Beryllium Extract, have theorized that Emily is actually Andy's mother. Evidence that supports this theory included what viewers see of Emily. Many fans noticed that she looks a lot like Andy and even has a hat like his. Is it possible that it's the same hat if Emily is indeed Andy's mom? Along with this theory is the depressing notion that Emily doesn't remember Jessie and that Jessie doesn't recognize her grown-up owner. Next, Mr. Potato Head is not a single being. Mr. Potato Head's anatomy has sprung up many questions as well as theories from fans. His body parts all keep moving despite their detachment, and it appears he can feel parts as well even when they are a long distance away. Reddit user Primetime22 theorized that Mr. Potato Head's various parts can each have a mind of their own, with different personalities, and the mouth is their leader. Lastly, the toys were never alive. One Reddit theory proposed by user Kingzilla2000 brings up the idea that Toy Story could be more like the Lego movie, and that their actions and story are actually in the imagination of their owners. If this theory were true, it would quickly fix any plot holes the films have had, such as why Buzz freezes like the other toys despite not thinking he himself is a toy in the first movie. Kingzilla2000 added a note at the end of the theory that although they don't actually think this is what the creators had in mind, this was just a fun little Toy Story theory to talk about. That's a wrap for this video. Do you have any other Toy Story theories of your own? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.